This is a Candy Factory Mini. So you want to write a book? With Suzette Mullen.
Hello, I'm Suzette Mullen, book coach, nonfiction writer, and your host. Welcome to So You Want to Write a Book. My goal is to break down the challenging process of finding and getting clear on your story so you can finally take action on the book that's been rattling around your head or tugging at your heart. Now, even if you never plan to write a book, I'll share tips that will help you become a more informed reader and a more effective writer in your work life. If you have questions, I welcome them. Just email them to me at hello@yourstoryfinder.com or feel free to comment in the post and I'll get back to you. So for now, grab a pen, paper, phone, or your laptop to jot down some notes and let's get started. Today, we're talking about the making of a business book, how an entrepreneur makes the decision to write a book connected with their business. We'll talk about the nuts and bolts of getting that book written and published, and what it's like to have that book out into the world. And lucky for me and for you, I have a special guest today who has done just this. In a moment, we'll be talking to my friend Nicole Lewis-Keeber, who is a business therapist and mindset coach who works with entrepreneurs to create and nurture healthy relationships with their businesses. Nicole's a licensed clinical social worker with a master's in social work, and she has a rich and varied experience as a therapist. She's certified in Brené Brown's Dare to Lead methodology. She's also been featured on numerous media outlets, including Fast Company and NPR, for her work in breaking the stigma of mental health and business ownership. Nicole writes and speaks about the impact of small t trauma on businesses, but her biggest, most important work is in combining therapeutic processes with business coaching to help entrepreneurs build emotionally sustainable and financially stable businesses. Hi, Nicole. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. So I have heard through the grapevine that you have written and published a book. Is this the case?
It's very true, yes.
This is very true. And do you happen to have that book with you?
I do. Like
could you hold it up for us? Oh my gosh, How to Love Your Business. I love your cover. And
thank you.
Maybe we'll have a little time toward the end to talk about how you designed your cover. But I wanted to bring you on because a lot of our listeners are business owners, entrepreneurs who probably a good percentage of them have considered writing a book that's related to their business. And you are actually someone who not only considered, but you've taken action and you've actually done the thing, which bravo for you on that. So I want to hear the story of how this book came about. And one of the first questions I ask my book coaching clients is, why do you want to write this book? The why, the deep why. And so let's start there. Why did you want to write this book?
Because people kept asking me if I had a book.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a really simple answer. Obviously, there's a deeper why there. But first and foremost was that, when I would apply for speaking opportunities or, I would be on a podcast or even just at a networking event and people would hear what I do and how unique it was and kind of, the history around it, they would say, do you have a book I can read? Or do you have a book I can share? And I would say, no. Are you going to write one? Maybe. So, I think so that was part of it. The other piece of it was that it is such a unique perspective that I felt like it deserved to be out in the world in a way that people could access it really affordably, easily, and that it could have legs so that I could move on to the next thing.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. An interview I did a few months ago with another author, and he also does a mini show, Jose Johnson. He had kind of a similar feeling or similar story about the origin of his book, which was, he he'd be a speaker and at a conference, and everybody else had their books, and he didn't have the books. So it can be something as simple as that, but there's many layers of that why. So that's interesting. So hopefully in the not too distant future, whether it's live or virtual, in person or virtual, you'll have that book now. So the sort of the second question, or one of the other important questions that I always start with, and sometimes this is actually kind of hard to answer, is like, what's your book really about? What is the main point of your book? Or another way to say this that I say to authors, especially before they've actually written their book, is what have you come to the page to say? And so can you talk to us a little bit about that? What is the actual thing you've come to the page to say? And maybe a little bit about how you figured that out in the writing process.
Yeah, I think what I came to the page to say was that the way that we approach many things, but the way that I have learned that we approach business, entrepreneurship, leadership, is that we compartmentalize it, and that we do not recognize that all of who we are, all of our experiences, everything informs what we do in all places. Like, I don't know why people thought that if you start a business, that any of that, just you drop it at the door, you don't bring it in there with you, right? Like, it makes no sense to me whatsoever. After being a therapist for 18 years, like, I see those those traumatizing childhood experiences, whether we see them or not, they come into everything that we do. And so what I wanted to put on the page is that when you start a business, because that's what this book is about how to love your business, because I saw myself and everyone else around me creating really dysfunctional and toxic relationships with their business, is that you can create a business that is supportive of you, that has your best interest at heart, that does not have to replicate all of those demanding and demeaning messages that we get around success and hustle and any of those things. And that when you start a business, you enter into a relationship. You are not your business. It is something outside of you that you are relating to. And therefore, it's likely that you're going to bring the way that you have related to other people and the way other people have related to you in those very important formative years as a child into your business. And so that's what this whole book is about, is about kind of unpacking why we tend to do that by default, and what that may look like in a business. And there's lots of stories, case study type stories in here about other people, and what it looked like for them and how they were able to change it. And so it's basically to give you another way so that you can go from having this business be a mean boss to you to actually be a loving partner.
Yeah. And thanks. You clearly know what you've come to the page to say. And I meant to mention earlier, but this is a good time as any to mention it, is that I actually went through, Nicole had a course, had a group coaching program that was called Love Your Business School. And so I'm very familiar with much of the content of what I expect is in this book. And so that might be a good way to transition to. So you had a group coaching program that was called Love Your Business School, correct? Mm-hmm. And so how did that program, or the content, the curriculum that you have, how did that translate into a book? And this is also where I want to ask you about how the process of actually getting your book written, because one of the things I'm trying to do to debunk a myth on this show is that people just go and they write their books by themselves, and they it's not that hard to do it, and you just do it and whatever. And we all know that is not what happens in the vast majority of cases. So take us a little bit through the process of, okay, people keep asking me, do I have a book? I have a book. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to write this book, and I have this program, I have this curriculum, but now what needs to happen, or what did happen to turn it into that book that you showed us?
So I'll give you kind of a timeline. So the origin story of this book is my own, where after being a therapist for 18 years and starting a business doing money mindset coaching, I recognized that I was replicating really challenging childhood dynamics in my own business. So I read the book to read the whole story. But that's kind of the origin story, was this huge aha moment where I recognized what was happening in my own business and why I wanted to quit, right? I was like, this is messed up. I'm not doing this anymore. And then how it began to inform the work that I did, right? So the work came first. And so then I started working with other clients. And so the story started to build. And so that's when I started giving talks about this topic. And people were like, that's fantastic. Do you have a book? I said, no, not yet. And so then I sat down to write the book by myself, like most people do, and completely got blocked and had no idea what to say, because I also have a learning difference and a little bit of a processing disorder. So I was really struggling getting what I wanted to say out. And so I read somewhere that, story within a book is such a fantastic way to help people understand a concept. And so I've had a 6-week first program, which is a very small group of people who I said, come take this program with me. And we're going to go through the Love Your Business process, and with the idea that you all are going to help me write this book, because I want to know your stories, like all the things. So I had 8 people in that group, and a lot of the stories that are in this book are theirs because they agreed to be in that group, understanding that their story would be a part of the book, right?
Great. Yeah.
So there was that. Then people really, really loved it. And so it expanded into this 8-month group program that you were in.
Yeah.
More stories, more confirmation that this stuff works, more confirmation that it has a ripple effect, which gave me more confidence to try again with the book, because I had not been able to write it myself. And so it was an unveiling. It has taken me 4 years to write this book. I think sometimes people think that it just happens overnight. And when I made a commitment to writing it again, I got a breast cancer diagnosis, right? So that kind of put me back. And so last year I decided, you know what, I'm not going to let another year go by without writing this book. I'm going to commit to it. And so I enrolled some help, it was actually a ghost editor to help me write the book in a way that I could, because of the way that I process information. And after a year, it took us a year to get through the entire process, but we did. We have a book.
Yeah,
and that's pretty good, I think. So, it's all about commitment, sticking with it, and asking for help.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I put that on a bumper sticker, and I have to put that on my website. I love that. No, it's so true. And the amount of time, I mean, yeah, sure. And you'll see things all over the internet, write a bestseller in 30 days or 90 days or whatever. And yeah, the reality is, if you're going to write a book, a quality book, it often takes a lot of time and a lot of drafts, and just to be patient with that process. So I love that. So I want to ask you, and gosh, I wish we had, we maybe we'll do a multi-parter on this down the road, because I would love to interview you again, like, 6 months or a year down the road, once you've had this book out in the world, and kind of hear a little more about how that's changed things for you.
Yeah.
But the book has just come out now. So I want to ask you one more question, then I want to hear about, I want you to let us know how we can buy the book and how we can find out more about you. So the last question I want to ask is about your publication path decision, because that's something that I do a lot of work with clients on. And, if you've never written a book before or published a book before, it can be super overwhelming to know, like, what's the universe out there? What are the pros and cons of the different paths? And how do I decide what to do? So can you just tell us briefly about how you did end up publishing the book, and how you made that decision?
I pretty much always knew I was probably going to go the self-published route, because it's not my first book. I actually wrote another ebook called The 3 Whys. It's available on Amazon too. I figured I probably would, because this for me felt like a very much a freshman book, and I didn't want to wait because the traditional publishing can take a long time at times. But I did go through a book writing proposal, a very short group on kind of how to outline it, just to kind of get myself in that thought process.
Yeah.
And, after working, to get the book finished, of course, then there's like designing and all the things. So I hired someone to help me
Sure.
design the book because that's a thing.
Right. Yep.
So there was that piece of it. And then she kind of walked me through what I would need to do next to make those decisions about publishing. So I did go self-publishing route. And I'm published on KDP with Amazon, like that
Okay.
on Amazon.
Yep.
I
Mhm.
also made a choice to, I'm going to be publishing on what's called Ingram Spark, which is also a publishing platform that
Mhm.
will allow my book to be in other places, like, I think Barnes & Noble, indie bookshops. We just haven't set that up yet. That's next. But I
Yeah.
think
So
for
that's
me,
the
I needed to be nimble and faster, and that's why I went the self-publishing route, so I could learn a lot of these things. And then my next book, I would like to go the self-publishing or the traditional publishing and do
traditional.
a
Yeah.
proposal, get an
I love
agent, all
how
that good
you're
stuff.
thinking about I love how you're thinking about the next book already. That's fantastic. And just a couple of things you mentioned about that you did a draft book proposal. That is actually that, and I'm guessing you found that really helpful because
Mhm.
I do that with a lot of my nonfiction clients. Also, even if they're ending up going on, we don't do it, fully polished, but it gives it gives you that framework for what your book is really about and who it's for and how you're going to market it and all those pieces of the book proposal. You really need to know them and solid, whether you're self-publishing or going hybrid publishing or traditional publishing.
It's really
So
important. And I honestly
yeah,
did mine 2 years before I even started working with the ghost
yeah,
editor
yeah,
because, so, and it stuck and it stayed and
yeah.
it was still pretty much what I
Yeah.
utilized as that foundation.
It's a roadmap to get
Yes.
your book written. So, wow, I'm so excited for you. Okay, can you show us the book again? Can you hold
Yes.
up how okay, so How to Love Your Business, and I love the paperclip thing. It is so fabulous. So just tell us briefly where people can buy this book and how they can connect with you
Yeah.
if
So
they'd
it's on
like
Amazon right now. And if you don't want to buy from Amazon, some people I know don't, hang on. It's
to.
coming. So, it's Nicole Lewis-Keeber. You can look me up under books on Amazon and it'll be right there. And if you do, buy it, please give me a review. That helps me get seen and noticed more on Amazon. And if anyone wants to follow me, really the best place to follow me is either my website, nicole.lewis-keeber.com, or on Facebook, Nicole Lewis-Keeber Coaching. That is usually where I update stuff the most, so you'll get the most recent information about what's happening from me on that social media platform.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Nicole. I so appreciate you coming on, and I wish you huge luck with your book and book sales. And let's book a time in 6 months or a year for you to come back and let us know how it's really changed. How it's changed you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed this conversation, and I'd love to continue it with you. There are many ways we can stay connected. You can sign up for my newsletter at yourstoryfinder.com. It's chock full of tips to help writers get started, get unstuck, and get their stories out into the world. You can read my blog, which is on that website, where you'll find additional tips to help you move forward in your writing journey. And if you've been struggling to make progress on your memoir or prescriptive nonfiction book, I invite you to schedule a complimentary discovery call with me where I can learn more about your book and share how I can help you move it forward. And in the meantime, happy reading and writing. So You Want to Write a Book is part of the Candy Factory mini-series and is a proud member of the Candy Factory Collective.
Over the past 8 years, Suzette has been on a mission to help writers clear the fog and cut through the overwhelm so they can move their ideas out of their head and onto the page.
Visit yourstoryfinder.com to learn more about Suzette as well as her writing coach offerings. So You Want to Write a Book is produced by the Candy Factory Collective for So Good Lancaster, another great project of the Candy Factory Co-working in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The show is produced by Ann Kirby with production support by Anna Tran and Jason Mundock. Administrative support by Ariana Henderson. Find out what makes Lancaster so good at sogoodlancaster.com. Candy Factory.
Collective.